We're good.
Awesome. All right, our topic is vaccination and the anti-vaccination movement. So we're going to explore a little bit of both sides and see kind of what's going on there. All right, so we're going to start off with a case presentation with the history and physical exam. We have a 15-month-old Caucasian female, healthy birth, no previous health issues. And the chief complaint was that a month after an injection, which was an MMR injection vaccine, she woke up with her head jerking from side to side. The parents were very scared, and so they called 911. The paramedics thought it was a febrile convulsion, and they took her to the hospital. So, again, history of the present illness. She had an MMR vaccine in the left leg, less happy after injection, according to the parents. And she had a rash that grew larger and larger, which rashes are prevalent in vaccines, the MMR vaccine, but they claimed that this one was much larger than normal. And also this child was given phenytoin, I don't know how to say that right, but phenytoin to treat seizures. The analysis, measles and mumps were shown in a spinal tap, and the fluid was not clear. And the swelling in the brain, or from a scan, they noticed that there was swelling in the brain. All right, let's go to the next slide. So supposedly, due to the measles that were from the vaccine, the child died. This is what the parents claim. I was searching hard for a case that I could present that was negative. This is the only one I really found with enough detail, and it wasn't from the most reliable source. So that's just kind of to present the other side of the argument. And most articles that I saw show that there's no direct correlation between adverse effects and vaccines. So are vaccines really the culprits in this, or is it misinformation and misunderstanding that cause us to blame them? And as you can see with that little bumper sticker, vaccines are toxic, protect children. So it's a pretty big movement. All right, next slide. So the other side of the coin, we know that hundreds of thousands benefit from these vaccines, but I also looked at what happens when a large anti-vaccine movement erupts. And so I found a CBS News report where there was a measles outbreak in the Pacific Northwest. And there, many parents shunned vaccines apparently. And so 62 children contracted the disease, and almost all of those children had not been vaccinated. So bottom line, vaccines are incredible tools, but we need to have people understand what they do and understand that they are a good. But the problem is, where do we draw the line between mandatory vaccination and free will? Mandatory vaccination where we eliminate diseases, and free will where we aren't quite sure how to let parents feel like they can do what they want with their child, but at the same time maintain public health. And then just to kind of finish up the case presentation, you can kind of see when the vaccine was licensed on that graph, measles cases dropped significantly. And so it does good. But then at the same time, you see that picture where the little girl says, I'm now vaccine free to avoid supposedly autism, seizures, brain damage, convulsions, gut lesions, etc. So we're going to kind of explore a little bit more with vaccines with Grant now.
So the science behind the vaccines. Vaccines basically train the immune system to recognize dangerous pathogens so that your immune system is ready if you ever do come in contact with those pathogens in the future. It takes antigens which trigger that immune response so your body's protected. And it gives your immune system time to destroy those pathogens. One big thing involved with vaccines is herd immunity. Which basically means that vaccines don't really work on an individual level if there's not a lot of people with the vaccine. They're meant to protect entire populations. Once enough people have been immunized, there aren't enough opportunities for that pathogen to grow. So we need to keep it at a certain percentage of the population vaccinated in order to prevent that pathogen from spreading into the population. Some history behind vaccinations. They were first introduced in year 1000. The Chinese created a type of smallpox vaccine. Most of us are familiar with Edward Jenner in the US beginning the vaccines. In 1796, he used cowpox material to create immunity to smallpox, and now smallpox is eradicated because of that vaccine. We had more people find new vaccines and develop those, such as the rabies vaccine. And then really in the mid-20th century, a lot of research occurred giving us measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines, and others. Some of the anti-vaccination history, it started as a society when it comes to in the Americas in 1879. There's this big documentary called The Vaccination Roulette in 1982 that described adverse reactions to immunizations, which started a big controversy in the US and got people thinking and worried, especially about that DTP vaccine. And most movements, it's interesting, have began in the UK, and then the ideas would spread to other countries. But for example, Andrew Wakefield, he's a very well-known ex-physician who became an anti-vaccine activist. And he kind of focused and wrote this research saying that vaccines cause autism, and it caught fire, and he was from the UK, and that kind of spread all over. The impact of vaccinations, they prevent between 2 and 3 million childhood deaths a year. About 100,000 children under 2 years old are not protected by vaccines, and higher rate of children are immunized when they are insured. 17.2% of unvaccinated children were uninsured, compared with 2.8% of all children. So you can see globally the number of lives saved by measles vaccine globally. So you can see a very harsh decrease in deaths from measles due to vaccinations. But I still think it can be even lower than that if we continue to vaccinate. Just some costs about vaccines, both administering vaccines and the cost of people not having vaccinations. Vaccine preventable diseases among adults in the US economy, sorry, let me move this so you guys can see that, cost the economy about $8.95 billion just in 2015. 80% of those individuals who were not vaccinated out of the 8.95 was $7.1 billion. And the largest disease that contributes to that is the flu. But there is still a lot, almost 2.3 or $1.3 billion from other diseases as well. And then I couldn't really find any numbers about like total economy costs for how much we use to just vaccinate people around the US. But the national average of administering the vaccine is just $30, with the lowest price if in under Medicaid, it can make it just $3.30. So in our conclusion, there are many falsely created ideas out in society that claim the dangers of the vaccine, and these ideas should be put away. It's important that we spread awareness about the necessity of vaccines for the safety and health of our society. We need to be public health advocates in the health system. It's a really good, vaccines are very population-based and very public health-based. And as future professionals and doctors, we need to be headstrong and at the forefront of that battle, in my opinion. Do you have anything to add, Hayden?
You said it great. If I was to add anything, I'd just say that I agree completely with that, and that we just have to be at the forefront, like you said, to be able to get this information out and let people know that these things are good, that we have the potential to basically eradicate diseases, but because of these movements, that's not yet possible.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, these are some of our references, but that's our presentation.